And Brandon, the next team we're moving on into is the Iowa Hawkeyes. And we were just talking about Iowa in the Nebraska preview, and I feel like the high note that you mentioned for them is exactly where I want to start with, because this defense is going to go through some changes this year. Yeah, that was my bad impersonation of that song.
That was really good.
Too many times on the
keep going with that
part. But to me, the big losses, or not to me, just in general, the big losses, they lose linebacker Josie Jewell, and then they also lose cornerback Josh Jackson. Jewell was a senior last year, just doesn't have eligibility. Jackson said, I ain't coming back as a senior. I'm going to go to the NFL. And now he is with the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin. So maybe they can see each other this year if the Iowa game, I haven't checked if the Iowa-Wisconsin game is in Wisconsin. But that's the first thing I want to bring up is the defense with this one is how much of a task do you think it'll be for DC, Phil Parker, to kind of replace these all-American talents and make sure this defense is just as good as it was last year? Like you said, 9 takeaways, and 5 of them went back for touchdowns last year for Iowa. What do you think this defense will look like in 2018 for the Hawkeyes?
Well, I think that you certainly have to be worrisome that, okay, you just lost this really great playmaker. And I mean, he wasn't the only one either. Josie Jewell, they lost him as well at linebacker. Obviously not in the secondary, but someone who is a key and an anchor for them on the defensive front. But you have to be, I think, hopeful of what they have coming up next, and that's going to be something to monitor this season, because you look at Amani Hooker, who at last season had some flashes of things that could be good, and some things that people looked at and said, okay, this guy's going to be really good, make some strides in his next couple of seasons. So it may not be completely a disaster on the defensive side of things, as some may think, oh, the sky is falling. We've lost our best guy. It's over. It's done for. But they will need to make some adjustments a little bit. They may not have 21 interceptions as a team like they did last season. But I still think that overall, you're going to see a team that's pretty well put together. On the defensive side, I don't think there's going to be as much of a cause for concern as some might think because of the pieces you're losing. Well,
and the thing with the cornerback, especially Josh Jackson, that comes to mind is I think people almost thought the same thing after the 2016 season, because it's like 2016 you had Desmond King and Josh Jackson as your main cornerbacks. Then Desmond King leaves for the NFL. It's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Josh Jackson takes over in 2017 and everything is fine. Like, Josh Jackson didn't have an interception until his junior campaign last season. So for me, I am going to put some of the pressure on Hooker. Hey, you know what? It's your time to step up, just like those cornerbacks before you stepped up. Josh Jackson had to step up when King left. You got to step up because Josh Jackson left. So, I mean, with me in the defense, the big thing is going to be the linebackers, because Iowa's going to have to replace all 3 of their starting linebackers. Like, how the defense looks for me, the defensive front should be fine. They've got some really nice defensive ends on that squad, where they also have got AJ Espinenza, who's a former 5-star recruit. He's going to be on that line. So the front's going to be nice. The front 4 will be nice. The cornerbacks won't be a huge issue. We just got to have Hooker step up. Linebackers, the issue. You're replacing all 3. How do you replace them? Who do you replace them with? Do those players step up? I wouldn't be surprised if, like you mentioned, Iowa takes a dip this year defensively in those numbers. It just naturally happens because the guys you had out there are just gone and not there in 2018.
And that's one of the things, but at the same time, you also have to look at Iowa's team as, okay, maybe you go from what was really solid at cornerback, and you move it up to the
now it's the front four,
kind of the front four with the defensive ends and everything like that, and you look at that to be one of the best in the Big Ten. That's going to be, I think, really exciting to watch too. So there's definitely a lot of things to be hopeful for Iowa. When you switch things back to the offensive side of things, while they lose Akram Wadley, that's a blow.
Dude, that's a huge loss. He tore it up in that Ohio State game. Tore it up. Like, when he left, I was like, man, whatever NFL team gets him is going to be really happy. Iowa is definitely hurting now that he's gone.
But here's the thing, is Nate Stanley is still there. Noah Fant is still there. Nate Stanley was absolutely phenomenal in a couple of games last season.
Was he
Iowa State?
Was he Jim Rome? Phenomenal.
He was phenomenal. We are Jim Rome, and we are burning. But anyways, so that was a terrible Jim Rome impression, and I admit to it. But Iowa State and Ohio
it was pretty
State.
good. I laughed.
He threw 5 touchdown passes in each of those, and possibly 2 of the most difficult games on their schedule. However, though, Wisconsin goes 8 of 24. He throws for 41 yards. But we've seen that all throughout the time. You know, when I'm ready for Matt Stafford to go off against this team, and then he had 150 yards and he threw 2 picks and he has no touchdowns. It happens. You have games like that where it just doesn't go well for you. But to see a guy that gets up for the big moments, that comes to play in the big moments, and it certainly helped that Josh Jackson was giving you the ball back every single time because he was just picking off JT Barrett. It was so incredibly awesome to see last year that Iowa just beat the living you-know-what out of Ohio State in a game that absolutely everyone thought Ohio State was going to do the exact same thing to Iowa, and they didn't. But it's really encouraging, though, with Nate Stanley, because this guy is good. He is really good, and I'm excited to see what he's able to bring this year. I'm excited to see what Fant's able to do this year, and I'm very interested to see what the running game can do. To see what the running game can do after Wadley. What's life like after Wadley? And that's going to be, a lot of people would say question, but I'm interested. I'm interested to see what they're able to put out there.
To me, the offense is going to be... I'm not worried about the offense. I'll say that. They've got, unlike the last 2 teams we talked about, a veteran quarterback. They got guys running back. I feel like it'll be the same thing as cornerback. Just the next one steps up. That's how I feel how Iowa running backs have been. It's every new year who's the new Iowa running back that kind of takes the place of the old one. Here's the big question I have this year is last year this team before the bowl game finished with 7 wins. They finished 7-5. Out of those wins, it's like, okay, I could see you beating those teams yet again. Nebraska, I could see them beating. I could see them beating Minnesota, Illinois, and their non-conference schedule because Iowa State, I know Iowa State fans are going to be like, oh, well, we played them close. Yeah, that game's going to be close, but I still kind of like Iowa in that game, but that one could be a coin toss just because Iowa State's really good as well. But Northern Iowa, Northern Illinois should be wins for the Iowa Hawkeyes. My question comes because if you look at their 5 losses, Penn State, Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Purdue. What do you notice about all those teams?
It doesn't include the top dogs of the Beast.
They against the top 6 teams. So the top 3 from the Beast and the top 3 from the West. They were 1-5 against those teams. The only one they beat was Ohio State. That needs to change this year because I look at their schedule. They should win all 3 of their non-conference games, so that's 3. They should beat Illinois and Nebraska this year. That's 5. Where do you get the other games in my mind? What do you do against the top 3 from the West? So Wisconsin, Northwestern, and Purdue. Then what comes to me is last year from the East, you played Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State. Murderous row. top 3 teams, like I said, from that division. This year, yeah, you get Penn State again. Yeah, it's on the road, but you get a favorable, I'm not saying it's like cupcake easy, but favorable East opponents in Indiana and Maryland. They could win those 2 games, man, if they steal one against either Purdue or Northwestern or Wisconsin. I think this team could easily beat a 7-9 win team this year in the Big Ten overall. 7-9 wins overall could be what we're looking at for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I definitely see 7 wins on this schedule. Iowa State is, the game that you have out there. I say that because Iowa State, while Iowa did beat them last year in a season that Iowa State was very good, and Iowa still got them. It's always going to be one of those toss-up games. No matter what team has done better in the past, both of these teams could be absolutely garbage. I'm not saying they're going to be. I'm actually saying they're both going to be good, but it doesn't matter. It's one of those rivalry games where people get up for it, the players get up for it, and anything could happen. Mm-hmm. The Wisconsin game, of course, is going to be a tough one. But you know what? Is that Iowa, knowing how poorly they played last season and losing whatever it was, 38-17, that could be one of those games that Iowa sneakily gets the win.
You know what? And this is looking at history of the Cy-Hawk Trophy, which is the Iowa State-Iowa Trophy. I remember when we made that pick because I was like, you know what? So I can't remember who I picked, but I basically said, it's going to be another close game. Expect another one like 2011 when Iowa State won 44-41 in triple overtime. Last year's score was 44-41 in overtime. So that means if history repeats itself, the team that won the year before will win again. So Iowa will get the win, but it'll be 9-6. It'll be like a field goal only game and you'll barely get the win. So, I mean, Iowa should be looking back at history going, hey, not only do we favor the series 43-22, last time a team won in overtime 44-41, that same team won the next year. But, 7-9 for this Iowa team. My big question, though, is just that defense. Is what can we see from it overall? And the biggest one is, what do you do against the big opponents? The more so, and I'll ask you, what do you think? Can they get a win against either a Purdue or Wisconsin or Northwestern? I'm going to leave Penn State out of it, but you could throw them in as well.
I think they definitely could get a win against Purdue. I know it's on the road, but that's okay.
Sorry to Matt.
And that's obviously
talk to
next. But I think Matt would probably agree that Iowa could get a win against them because I think he understands and sees what Purdue is this season, and not to say that they're going to be bad, but I think Iowa still could get a win there. And against Wisconsin, like I said, Iowa's going to look at, I think, the Wisconsin game as a revenge game. They know they didn't play well. They know they didn't play well last season. And I think the biggest thing is going to be the fact that Nate Stanley knows he didn't play well. He played so poorly. I think that was his worst performance all season long. You can't tell me that he doesn't want to absolutely come out and he wants to have one of his 5 touchdown games in that Wisconsin game and say, hey, in week 4, we've already beat Wisconsin. We've already beat Wisconsin.
And based off of last year, because Stanley last year playing this year, one of the things I worry about, and I would if I was an Iowa fan, was, all right, we're playing Wisconsin that 4th game. What happened last year? We went 3-0 in our non-conference, not the toughest of non-conference. We played a really good team in Penn State. We lost. Well, Penn State and Michigan State, but that first game off of the 3-game winning streak is Penn State, and they lost. I could almost see a similar thing for Iowa this year with Wisconsin, because the question for me as an outsider is basically, can you prove to me, hey, I don't care, we can win those first 3 games, and then we are going to be ready to play the Wisconsin Badgers in that 4th game. But like you said, That's a game they want to make up for from last year.
Absolutely. And this Iowa team, I'm looking at them to be competitive yet again this season, and they could certainly be one of the top 3 teams. They could even make a run for one of the top 2 teams. And who knows, they could come out and they could even surprise a little bit, and maybe they can make a run for the top team.
Well, any final thoughts you got about the Iowa Hawkeyes before we move? This one is probably the most, it's weird. They're probably the most straightforward team because, on offense, I think they'll be fine. Defense is the question mark because of what they've lost. In their games, it's basically, can you beat the teams that matter? Penn State, Purdue, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and then that coin flip of a game in Iowa State for the Cy-Hawk Trophy. This one's pretty much a straightforward preview for me. It's a few things and then basically, hey, they should win these games. They shouldn't win these. Any final thoughts on Iowa before we move on into Matt and the Boilermakers?
No.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. What do you think about your Hawkeyes this year? What are they going to do? Who are they going to win? Who are they going to beat? That's probably the same thing. Who are they going to lose to?
Who are they going to win?
Who are they going to win? Who are they going to beat?
Who are they going to win? Who are they going to lose?
That's going to be our next shirt. Who are they going to win? That's going to be our next shirt. Who are they going to win? But let us know what you think down below in the comment section.